Today I fucked up by having a horny Reddit hookup. Okay, so this happened several days ago. I got out of a relationship about a year ago and impulsively went searching on Reddit in the r/r4r. I live in a small town in the US and it hasn't been easy for me to meet anyone because of restrictions and my own fear of getting COVID. I end up finding this girl that seems kind of intriguing. We come from similar cultural backgrounds and seem to have similar interests in everything, and our conversations were going well over text. Plus, she was located 15 minutes away from my house. We ended up meeting in person and things started out normal. We chilled, had dinner, and watched Netflix. All of a sudden she starts touching me intently. Given that it's been some time since anyone has shown me any affection, I'm all for it. Things escalate. She starts grabbing me, squeezing me, holding me close. Not terrible. This is where things take a turn. Then she started talking about how she was raped, on the first date. I'm like, okay, let's try to not talk about that. It's a downer and not something I'm comfortable talking about, at least not now. So then the conversation turns to how she used to self-harm. Okay. I repeat the same thing because I want to try and keep it positive. Next she starts talking about her long history of mental illness. I feel terrible at this point, but that shitty feeling doesn't negate my horniness. Next thing I know I've finished my cocktail and we've started making out. I end up having sex with her and giving her a ride home. Throughout the whole car ride she was making detailed plans for me to spend Christmas with her and her extended family. Okay. When she got home, she told me how much she loved me and that she wants to move in and change her job so that she can be with me. I have met this person once. Now I don't know how to tell her that I'm a bit uncomfortable seeing her anymore. She seemed nice enough, but she came on super strong. I'm too kind to ghost completely and have absolutely no idea how the hell to deal with this. TLR got horny, met a Redditor, had sex, she declared her love for me on the first date and now seems to be obsessed with me. Told me she is mentally unstable and that she wants to be with me forever. Apparently plans have been made for me to meet her family and spend Christmas with them. FML. Edit. Holy shit, this blew up. When I finish my workday I'll write an update and do my best to respond to the comments. P.S. I'm afraid of being murdered. Edit number 2. Okay. Let me start by saying that 1. She was pushing me for sex. Not the other way around. She was the one that initiated physical contact and pushed from there. 2. She wasn't telling me these things in a way that would have given me a reason to think she wasn't of sound mind. She was saying these things too casually. It seemed like she was telling me these things because she wanted to test my tolerance. Also, please note that she didn't only talk about when she was raped, self-harm and her ongoing struggles with mental illness. She spent the whole time talking about all kinds of innocuous stuff that I haven't mentioned in my post, while only casually segueing into the subjects I described above. If I hadn't been drinking, I probably would have been like a deer in the headlights and noped the fuck out, but of course, that wasn't how it went down. Instead, I let her continue pushing me and trying to get me in the mood, and she ultimately succeeded. What she had said didn't really sink in right away. It was only during the act that I started to realize how big a mistake this truly was. Not long after we started, my slong went soft as I thought more about it. I was unable to perform. Don't get me wrong. I know this was a monumental fuck up, which is precisely why I posted it in Today I fucked up in the first place. Edit number 3. Please stop saying, "Don't stick your dick in crazy." It's been said 1,000 times already. Edit number 4. Please stop asking me, is her name blank? I'm not going to share her name. Fuck off. Edit number 5. Okay guys and gals, the night is winding down and it's getting dark. I've gotten about a dozen messages from her asking if she can come over. I have not responded because I don't know what to do or say. If I don't provide an update, then shit got real. Edit number 6. I decided to stay at a hotel for the night just to play it safe. Neighbor just texted me telling me that there is someone that has gone to my door and knocked on it a few times. Apparently a letter was left taped to my door. I'm not home and my neighbor is afraid to touch it. Looks like you're stuck with her. Hope the marriage goes well. Come back next week. We'd love to know if you've been axe murdered or not. Edit. Thanks for the silver, kind stranger. Lol, what I got from this was, I saw several red flags but ended up getting sexually involved anyway. Well, if she's on Reddit she probably saw this post lol. If she reaches out again, be honest. You came on very strong and I'm not equipped to deal with that. I can't get over my worries there. I wish you well but please don't contact me. Thank you for understanding. My corollary to Don't stick your dick in crazy, is that it's not fair to sleep with a person who is actively unwell on a first date. You just cannot assess whether you're helping or harming their mental state. So, anyways, I started blasting. When will you be entering the witness relocation program? Not sure what else you expected looking for sex on Reddit. Today I fucked up by making my professor think I want to sleep with him. 19F. Have a professor who everyone really likes and is super friendly. He's a good professor, but I just can't understand calculus to save my life. With finals approaching and a terrible grade 1, decided to approach him after class and ask if there was anything I could do to improve my grade. I'll admit I greeted him in an overly friendly way to try and get him to help me out. I asked if there was anything I could do to improve my grade in his class. He told me no, and I said I was willing to do extra credit to improve my grade. He said, "This is very inappropriate and you could get in serious trouble if I report you for this conversation." I was confused what he meant and just left disappointed I wouldn't be able to improve my grade. When I told my friend about it later, he made me realize my professor thought I was asking to sleep with him for extra credit. I don't know how I'm going to face him again. Too long did not read. I asked my professor for extra credit to improve my grade and he thought I was asking to sleep with him. Just tell him that's not what you meant. His significant other is probably telling him that he read the situation wrong as we speak. Find a tutor at the library. I am an instructor at a large state university, and I have had students suggest some wild things during office hours. Now I keep the door to my office open at all times. You wanna pass calculus or what? Don't blame the professor. He is prob just being safe than sorry, and obviously he has taken it the wrong way. I'm a professor. I do offer extra credit opportunities to the entire class. It's included in my syllabus. If it's not in the syllabus, I pretty much never include it. That said, your professor must respond in this way. Their careers are on the line if they mess around for a student, or give the impression that they're messing around. They have to be careful. You can approach the professor after class and explain that your friend sat you down and explained why it was inappropriate and how embarrassed you were and apologize. They may not believe you. There's no real good way out, but you're only in a position of embarrassment. Tell him you had no intention of sleeping with him, you were strictly suggesting a blow job. Today I fucked up accepting a fake job at a fake charity. God, where do I even start with this? I'm going to use fake names to protect the identities of people involved. There's currently an ongoing investigation. I live in the UK. When I finished university, I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with myself. I spent 2 years in an admin, logistics graduate role, just generally finding my feet and paying for a place to live. The COVID lockdowns came and went, and I found that remote working really agreed with me. I hated the commute, and didn't like the office environment. I'm a socially anxious person by nature and other people can easily make me nervous, so having that free space and security in remote working was really welcome while it lasted. I took a new, better paying role in the same sector in October, only to find that all the things I hated about office working were multiplied tenfold in the new place. I started looking for new opportunities. My head was really getting into a bad place, and I felt burnt out and tired. I go on Indeed and start applying for remote-only roles wherever I can find them. I'm quite IT literate, and figured I'd take a shot at applying for some entry-level IT roles as well. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, a seeming answer to my prayers. I get a phone call. "Hi Mike. I really liked your CV. My name is Grant. I'm the ops manager for a newly started charity. Would you still be interested in the IT support role we advertised?" Hell yeah, I thought. I agreed to do an interview on Zoom with them, which all seemed fairly normal and straightforward. 2 20-something guys in casual dress, Grant and Ronnie. It was all friendly enough. Asked me the sort of questions you'd expect, standard fare interview stuff. They mentioned they'd been having issues connecting their domain to the website they wanted to set up. I said I'd probably be able to fix that, and they basically lost their minds. I was asked by Ronnie, verbatim, "The kids we work with sometimes turn off their Microsoft Teams and we can't stop them. Do you know how they're doing that?" I guess I should have had an inkling there was something weird going on at that point. What sort of 20-year-old doesn't know how to close a program? Sadly, I had some rose-tinted blinders on because of how eager I was to take a fully remote position. I get a call 2 hours after the interview. They tell me thanks for applying, but they needed someone with immediate availability. I had a week's notice to give. I was bummed out, but figured oh well, I'd keep applying for other stuff. 2 days later, another call from Grant. He asks me if I'm still available and interested in the position. He tells me the applicant they chose turned up to work, drunk and high, not taking the piss, absolute mess. I think this is a great opportunity, a chance for me to get into the role I'd missed out on. Pleased, I agree to take the role and ask for a contract to be sent over. I figure normally, with recruitment fraud, this would be the crunch point where things start getting weird and I start getting asked for money to pay for administration checks. But nothing of the sort happens. Instead, I receive what I suppose you could describe as a contract, replete with butchered spelling and confused dates. They even got the number of weekly hours I was supposed to be doing wrong. There's some back and forth over this, and I eventually receive a halfway legible contract, which I sign in print and send back over to them. There is an address printed on this contract, but it leads to a residential 3-bedroom apartment in South England. No apparent relation to the company at all. Now the weird part begins. I get added to a Teams call, for what is nominally supposed to be a training session introducing me to their Office 365 setup, getting the login details for their Wix site, etc. Instead, I'm added to a call with about 5 people in it, 3 women I don't know as well as Grant and Ronnie. The moment I join, Grant starts absolutely shrieking his head off at everyone in the room. He starts threatening people with forced work to make up missed hours, tells people they're taking the piss with not getting their work done, tells them he's going to start doing random spot checks on everyone to make sure they're actually doing what they're supposed to. He cusses and is being very loud. Everyone else in the meeting is basically silent, awestruck by this Hanford-tier display of rage. He occasionally cuts himself off to say, "Sorry Mike, not you, I know you're new." This goes on for about half an hour. Eventually, everyone is filtered out, leaving just myself, a female member of staff, Amanda, Grant, and Ronnie. Amanda asks to speak to Ronnie about a welfare issue. They go into a breakout room. I'm left with Grant. At this point, my suspicions are starting to grow. I ask Grant for more information about the charity, after discovering that there is no registered company number, no charity number, no VAT number, no existing website other than their Wix-hosted site in development. The entire organization is a ghost. He explains to me that he was only brought into the company in early November, and has been working every day with overtime ever since. That it's a new startup, a real shambles. He tells me there is a CEO, Martin, who I have never heard of until this point. When I asked about funding for the charity, he tells me the money comes from the National Lottery and private donors. There's no further elaboration on this. 2 hours later, I get a text message from Ronnie. Grant has been sacked, effective immediately, for gross misconduct. I call him, wanting some elaboration. He tells me, in a conspiratorial tone of voice, that Grant had been sexually harassing the female members of staff. I take this at face value, as after that explosive outburst I didn't think such behavior was beyond the pale for him. I meant to start on Monday. Friday evening, I get some more texts from Ronnie. "Can you help me ASAP with email?" Turns out that the Office 365 they'd had previously was in Grant's name, and that Grant had been paying for it with his personal bank details. Opening square bracket. I get added as a global administrator to this new Office 365 account. At this point, I am very suspicious of the whole arrangement, and I'm not sure who else on this team might be involved in it. Ronnie seems to have little or no work-life separation, regularly sending me texts and asking for phone calls outside of office hours. I turn on the audit log for 365 Security Center on a hunch. I discover that the supposed payroll manager Janice, a colleague no one else has spoken to who happens to have the same typing idiosyncrasies as Ronnie, has the same residential IP address as Ronnie. The next day, I'm in a welfare assessment meeting with Amanda. Apparently a routine thing that all staff go through. She asks me a handful of set questions. Eventually we start dancing around the subject of the charity's numerous suspicious aspects, and I decide to broach the IP address issue. This apparently sets off alarm bells for Amanda, who expresses a lot of discomfort about this, as it turns out she's had her payment date for her salary pushed back from mid-December to early January in an email from Janice. She is more outspoken and socially bold person than I am, and immediately proposes confronting Ronnie about this. I and ah over it, and Amanda eventually says she's going to talk to him without revealing anything of what I said. Unfortunately, Ronnie persuades Amanda during their conversation that she needs to reveal the information I told her due to a safeguarding issue regarding personal data protection. This at first made me extremely suspicious of Amanda, but later developments as well as an in-person meeting with her and her fiancé allayed my concerns. Ronnie's reaction, however. He flips his shit. He pulls my global admin role from 365 while still leaving me with some other privileges, a curious thing to do, given his performance of being an incompetent Luddite. He also starts using a VPN. He tells Amanda I've failed my probation, which I did not have, as there was no probation period written into my contract, broken IT law, and that he's going to get the police on it. He tells Amanda that Janice was working at his house with him for a few days. He then calls me sometime later, and asks for an explanation as to the IP address thing. I tell him that, as he hadn't defined the full scope of my duties as IT support, with no clarity on my responsibilities being made either in my contract or in any communication from him or Grant, that I'd taken it upon myself to also enable appropriate security measures to monitor machines connecting to the company's software. He accepted this, and said, fair enough, and seemed to have let it go just like that. Except he didn't. 2 days later, a new member of the team joins. Her name is Marley. Marley is the new team manager, and is responsible for making sure everything is running smoothly with the rest of the staff. She's a gregarious, friendly sort and seems to be well-meaning. I take a liking to her. My mistake. Ronnie asks Marley to do a supervision with me, which is supposed to be some kind of official meeting to further investigate the IP address issue. Marley makes a show of finding the whole thing ridiculous. She's quick and eager to take my side, agreeing with many of the points I raise about the suspicious nature of the charity. She explains that she's also been getting numerous late-night phone calls, and is worried about the security of her salary given the vagueness about funding and other employees' payment dates getting pushed back. Ronnie, after my supervision, gets a report from Marley, who tells him about Amanda having mentioned the pushback on her salary date. Ronnie then suspends all of Amanda's software access, including the HR software critical to her role and her emails, and sets up a disciplinary meeting between the four of us. Ronnie is late to the call. Marley, Amanda and I discuss the weirdness of the whole situation. Marley and I are told by Amanda that she's lost access to the HR software. Marley still has access. We decide to set a trap for Ronnie. When he finally joins the call, Amanda asks for an explanation on why she's had her access to the HR software revoked. Ronnie tells her, the software is being updated, no one can get on it. Marley promptly points out that she still has access, so that is obviously a lie. Ronnie stammers for a moment, mutters something about looking into it, and then promptly turns robotic on the call and loses connection. Marley, Amanda and I make a secure group chat to discuss everything away from Teams. Marley confides in us that she believes she's only been hired to spy on me and Amanda, and that Ronnie has been constantly asking her to find a way to get rid of me. I discovered the next day, through means of magic foul I shall not utter into this void, that Marley was a plant brought in by Ronnie. She was helping Ronnie by gaining my and Amanda's trust, finding out what we knew about him, and figuring out a way to get rid of us in a way that could look legitimate to other employees. Marley's boyfriend was due to be brought in the following week as an independent reviewer, hired by the CEO, who made clear in no small words that his sole purpose was to find me guilty of gross misconduct and promptly have me sacked. At this point, I was royally sick of the bullshit blazing. My anxiety, fretting about my mortgage and my bills, whether I'd ever see my salary from this, gave way to what I can only describe as a ferocious need to see this neurotic moron who'd been fucking me around get binned. I picked up the phone and called Ronnie. He let it go to voicemail. I texted him, demanding he call me immediately. He told me he was in a training course and wasn't available. I said I didn't give a shit, and that he needed to call me now. He asked what it was about. I just called him. He picked up this time. Asked in a quiet voice what the matter was. I told him, it's all getting a bit silly, now. You're going to be honest about what's really going on here. Why are you trying to get me sacked for looking at IP addresses on software you hired me to manage, and why are you being evasive about payslips? He immediately puts the phone down. I relay this information to some other colleagues, who quickly come round to my way of thinking about the situation. I discover, much to my unsurprised disgust, evidence of sexual harassment of female colleagues on Ronnie's part. I call Ronnie again. I demand, rather more aggressively in tone, that he demonstrate proof of the company's ability to pay its employees for the services they've rendered. He shouted back at me, right, I'm calling the police. And put the phone down again. He locks me out of my 365 account completely. Opening square bracket. An hour or two passes of Ronnie calling all the other members of staff. Eventually, I finally get added to another group call, this time between myself, Ronnie, and to my surprise Grant, who has apparently re-emerged into the picture with a terrible grievance against the CEO, who has failed to pay him to the tune of £3,000 for his hours worked and overtime pay. In this call, Ronnie changes his story, claiming that the problem with payments is because of Martin, the CEO, and that he had started work as a volunteer but later demanded payment for that volunteer work and received £608 into his account. He said he would show proof of this on his bank statement but didn't send it through to anyone. Ronnie also claimed that his own salary was now 3 months in arrears, and that he also found the situation suspicious. When challenged on why he didn't share this information with us originally, he had no answer. When asked why he kept working for the charity when his salary was 3 months in arrears, he claimed he liked the work. At this point, I've accepted I'm never seeing the money I'm owed. I grabbed some work as a delivery driver for a local takeaway while I get myself organized again. I really want to see this idiot go down for what he's done. Those single mother parents, and students with debt arrears, have been laboring under false pretenses in belief they'll be paid for their work. It's disgusting and abusive. Too long did not read. Hated office work. Got new job remote. Turned out to be a sketchy as fuck scam charity, probably set up for money laundering or identity theft or something like that. So, what was the work? If nobody knows what the charity was for and there was no money, what did Amanda do all day? You launched a site at least. Even though this is a really long post, I have to say that's genuinely one of the most entertaining stories I've seen on this sub. If you're not already aware, there is a charity commission in the UK. There's a link to make a serious complaint about a charity. Complain to the Charity Commission if a charity is, for example, not doing what it claims to do, losing lots of money, harming people, being used for personal profit or gain, involved in illegal activity. IDK, why people are in here talking shit about your post. I read it just the same as I would a smaller post, lol. Very eye-opening. Wish you the best op. Hope it all works out, but sounds like it's going to be a bitch to get litigation going, let alone an outcome. Damn. Sorry, op. I know you kept it vague, but with pending litigation, I'd probably delete this. Your first mistake was seeing that contract and still going through with it. That contract screams of laziness. Forget the spelling and grammatical errors, which are atrocious, but just saying your breaks will be paid according to regulations without actually explaining what they are is just lazy. Someone just whipped this up in 5 minutes and called it a day. Sounds like someone wanted to do criminal activity but was criminally incompetent. You know what the saddest part is? There are a lot Ronnies in charity, humanitarian aid sector that only care about grifting while working, in this case, helping others, as little as possible. Most are smarter than Ronnie and pass as legitimate managers, but make no mistake, they don't give a damn about the beneficiaries. Source. Just Google charity scandals, plus, my country hosts a lot refugees and I have a lot of close friends working in that sector. Soulless expatriate managers, corrupt government officials, grifter local suppliers, you name it. It's a daily struggle for workers who actually care.